Let's see if anybody's in here. Not yet. Set it to all messages. Back inside the house. Oh yeah. Boy, I gotta clean my windows. There's that spider there. I guess I'll go like that, yeah. Yep. That's interesting. Time to go back out. All of a sudden my compost pile, my compost bin started stinking. A nice fire here last night. There's some comfrey right there. That's a really good medicinal plant. Good for healing bones. And then these big leaves here are horseradish. Love me some horseradish. It says 15 people. What's going on, people? How y'all doing? That's a common thing. Say, how y'all doing? When people ask me how I'm doing, my response, my go-to response is living the dream. Because that's what I'm doing. Living the dream. That's what I should have titled the video. I'm living the dream. Living the dream. How art thou? Do-do. Welcome back. I gotta probably get something to drink here. I mean, something to eat. See my messy kitchen. Yeah, it's messy. Still plenty. I mean, I got some organization to my mess. Enough to know I know where everything is. Hey, what's going on, PGD? Welcome. Wow, it says you're my #1 fan, dude. Or dudette. I don't know what PGT. Maku, I'm guessing you're a dude. It says you're my #1 fan. Top fan. You're my top fan, man. Yeah, I just got done doing a bunch of yard work, and I went on did the little flipping through the live stream, and I saw a bunch of bullshit on there, man. I mean, that's all I see hardly. There are some people, very few, that go live that I really want to listen to because they got stuff to say that's kind of sensible and valuable. But for the most part, I see people that are like, they're not providing any information, they're not engaging in comments, and they're just like, oh, like, share, and subscribe. It's like, why do I want to do that? Why would anyone want to like, share, and subscribe? And I don't ask people to do that. I've had people come in here and asking others to do it and stuff, and that's cool, but I really don't see that I'm going to be making any money at this, and I do it to engage with people. What's going on, Ken Dale? Can I be a mod? Mason, I was just in a stream a little bit ago where there was somebody that was begging to be a mod. And I warned the lady that was doing the stream. I said, one thing I've learned is that people that desire to have power are the people that should never have power. And that's one of my rules here is I don't give the moderator wrench to people that ask for it. You know, just because 54 years old, being very observant with life, and seeing how God handles things, you know, he doesn't give, and it's actually wise. The best leaders or people with power in history have not been those that have sought after it for themselves. They were those that were set up into those positions from an outside source, you know. And that's actually something I do with my, because here's the thing. There's so much censorship going on in online and in this world right now. I don't want anyone censored on my stream. People come in, let the trolls troll, let the haters hate, let the lovers love, let the fans, you know, clap, whatever, you know. Everybody's got a voice. My thought is that somebody took the time to actually watch a stream and type in whether they're going to be in agreement or whether they're going to be haters or lovers or any of that stuff. It doesn't matter. They literally spent their time watching the stream and typing in words, and to delete them is like it's wrong. You know, it's just wrong, and it actually indicates that that person has murder in their heart because you literally think that that person shouldn't even have a voice and that their time isn't valuable to you at all. Do I have any black friends? Um, you know, through my life, I've had a lot of black friends. I would call them very close acquaintances. Um, but in reality, the word friend is kind of diminished in our current time. I look at a friend as somebody that is going to be there through thick and through thin, through everything. And by the time you live a ripe old age, you probably could count your friends, your true friends, on one hand. And I think that's true. Um, and yeah, I'd say out of my true friends, no, but I don't have anything against. I actually love all people, you know. Um, as far as all kinds of people, I don't. There are some people that I hate, but I don't hate people based on something that's outside of their control. I will hate people based upon the decisions that they, as individuals, make, and so I make my judgments based on on a person's behavior and their own words. Neither. I actually roll my own. I smoke natural tobacco. If you look, the end is twisted up. And the reason the end's twisted up is because the injection machine that I use doesn't pack them tight like the commercial machines. And so I smoke natural tobacco because pre-made cigarettes are loaded with chemicals. Not good for you chemicals. Um, can I cook chitterlings? Probably if I saw a recipe. I don't know. Yeah, I can't say I've ever cooked chitterlings. Now, if you're talking entrails from a chicken, I've done that before. I did try them once, and I was like, yeah, not a fan, not a fan. Uh-oh. I just realized I should have gone live on my other one. Let me see. Do not disturb. There we go. Oh, TTT. I smoke natural tobacco, and yeah, I get it. Some people have succumbed to the propaganda to think that smoking in general is bad. Smoking is not bad. What you smoke determines whether the smoke that you're taking in is bad. So there's a lot of things such as natural tobacco that have compounds that when you smoke it, it turns these compounds into solids that get directly into your bloodstream that are beneficial. They're actually, one of those is nicotine, and they're looking at natural nicotine actually has the ability to moderate and control or modulate and control Parkinson's disease because it is a neuro relaxant kind of. You're 9 though. Okay. Well, I mean, you're learning. You're learning. Probably shouldn't be on YouTube on adult live streams. But yeah, I mean and it is propaganda. From the time we're young, they say, "Oh, smoking's bad." They try to tell you the dinosaurs were millions of years old, and they try to tell you the Earth is 3.5 billion years old. I'm trying to think what I should make. I think I'm gonna make some broccoli. I love some broccoli. That's what I'm gonna make, broccoli. Hey, what's going on, duckies? He doesn't have the. Oh, I don't know that. I mean, my son, when he was 2 years old, actually, when he was 12 to 14 months old, he was able to have complete sentences and talk and carry on adult conversations with adults. People were amazed. It depends on the person. My son was like, yeah, but I didn't talk to him with baby talk. I never did that with my sons. I'll do that with my cats because they can't understand what I'm saying and, the tones and everything. But with children, I think it's one of the most foolish things that parents do to their kids to stunt their ability to communicate is by saying, "Oh, it's like, what does that mean? No, you can use tones, but speak words clearly." And they stunt and retard the mental maturity of children. But yeah, you could have a shit in the time when the King James Version Bible was translated, when the words were translated in the English language, the average 5-year-old had a bigger vocabulary than the average adult here today. It's based upon a child's upbringing, 100%. And we're living in a very dumbed down society. We're being neurologically inhibited with all sorts of aluminum products, byproducts, and being fed all kinds of propaganda in the indoctrinational facilities. They're not educational facilities. And you're an amazing father, very involved, and I agree. I always feel it's important to always explain and be honest. Don't just say because you know. Yes, yes. So I'm sorry. Well, dinosaurs are real, and the Earth is pretty ancient. No, the Earth is actually very young. There's all sorts of proof of that. But what you were saying here a minute ago, about doing baby talk. Wait, there's something else I was thinking. Yeah, I was going to say, so when my sons went through the why stage, a lot of parents hate that. A lot of parents hate the why stage. When kids are like, you say something, you can't go out in the woods without me. Why? Well, because there's, dangers out there. There's hawks, there's wolves, there's coyotes. Why? Oh, because they'll hurt you. Why? Because they want to eat. Why? And they ask the why questions, and it's called the why stage. And a lot of parents used to get so angry with their kids. I saw it all the time. Even my sister, she would like slam her hands on the table and say, "Stop asking questions," or "Stop asking why." But I would encourage it with my sons. Anytime my oldest was the one that was the most inquisitive, he'd always say, why? And I would answer him as best as I could with every single question he had. And I encouraged him to continue to ask and never stop asking why. And when I didn't have the answer, I would say, "I don't know, but let's find out." And then I taught him how to search matters out to find out why. And so that was a really cool phase. I loved being, raising children from young age. I wish I would have had like 30 or 40 of them. Gideon had like 70 sons and probably about 70 daughters. Hey, what's going on, Steven? But yeah, I do want to touch on that dinosaur thing because that's actually one of the deceptions that we're handed continually, as the Earth is an old Earth, and it's not. The oldest writings we ever have of mankind is the Mesopotamian text, and I was just talking about this with a very intelligent man a couple of days ago. Is how 4,400 years ago are the oldest writings we have. And give or take, there's not an exact date on it, but they're about 4,400 years old. And that was right after the flood, because pre-flood, men didn't need to have a written language, because all the earth was of one voice, one language. And there was a better form of record keeping, and that was in the spirit of man. The frequencies of the words would enter into the spirit and be burned in perfect verbatim. And that's actually been shown through electromagnetic frequency impulses, that they can do through electromagnetic frequency impulses. They can do a perfect recall on a person's life. But we have so many limiting factors, scientifically observable mechanisms in the earth that show the earth can't be older than 10,000 years. In fact, some of them are saying it can't be older than 7,000 or 8,000 years, such as the saltiness of the oceans. The oceans are getting saltier every year. The limiting factor would be, it would show that what causes the earth, the oceans to become salty is rain coming down upon the mountains and the hills and the valleys, and it drops down into the rivers and brings it out into the ocean. And it's actually, emulsifying or what's the word? It's salt is becoming soluble in the water, and then it's being brought into the ocean, and the oceans are getting saltier every year. And if you back that up, how salty they're becoming, and you go backwards in time, the oceans would have no salt at all 4,400 years ago, which means it didn't rain prior to that. Interesting limiting factors. I really love sciences. I gotta check and see if I'm missing. Sometimes the chat freezes up. But yeah, I love discussing these kinds of things, and I love learning. I love asking questions. I like seeking answers. I like addressing contradictions in things that I have believed. That's something a lot of people really don't like to do. Yeah, that got wet. Okay. I'm cutting up my broccoli. Love me some broccoli, but gotta make it soon. I know I saw something that was damaged. There it is. Cut off all the bad stuff before I start hacking away at it. All right, let's see. What do we got here? What is the universe? The word universe means one verse, one spoken verse. That's what it means. Interestingly enough, all things that are observable in the universe are subject to time, space, and matter. Time, space, and matter, all of them that we can observe in the physical realm, are subject to time, space, and matter. And the word universe means one verse, one spoken sentence, or one spoken verse. And the very first words in the King James Version Bible is, in the beginning, time, God created the heaven, space, and the earth, matter. Time, space, and matter in one spoken verse. Very, very cool. And that's what universe means. But what is the cosmos? What is the astrological, observational? We're being lied to en masse. A lot of propaganda. If you go to my channel, somewhere up there, if you go to my channel, you'll see I've got a playlist called, I think it's called Astronomy. And you'll find Dr. Philip Stott's channel, and he is an awesome, awesome man. He loves people, he loves science, he loves knowledge. He's 80 some years old. He's very, very highly educated, traveled the world speaking, is a professor at a university in South Africa, or was a professor in a university. I'm not sure if he still is, where they actually uh, allow him to go in there because he presents a lot of information that's not allowed in the mainstream academic studies of science, because they really want people deceived into believing in the evolution, and it's not true. We didn't evolve from nothing. We didn't. We are very, very fearfully and wonderfully made. And the observations that we have, both in the microscope and in the telescope and at the regular view, shows that there is a grand, beautiful design of everything that's made. And, a lot of people don't want to believe in God, and that's actually what a lot of the people in the sciences have stated. The reason that they refuse to allow a divine foot in the door of science academia is because they prefer to have live their lives, their sexual pleasures, without being kind of try to dismiss their conscience or sear their conscience of any kind of concern that they would ever be judged for what they do with their bodies. And that's and most of them are sodomites and sexual deviants that have done things with all sorts of creatures. I will say, our existence is too complicated to not be significant, to not be for nothing, if you know what I mean. Oh, absolutely, dude. Absolutely. In fact, there's another thing too about that, is actual scientific experimentation has been done with really, really good equipment over the last couple hundred years. And in the 1800s, there was a Michelson-Morley experiment that was done, and it was the first experiment that was done that actually showed, to my knowledge, it's the first experiment to my knowledge that was done that showed that the Earth is absolutely not moving. And the reason Einstein came up with his theory of relativity, he specifically stated, and he's one that I was speaking of, he specifically stated the reason he came up with it was to explain away the Michelson-Morley experiment, because the results of that experiment showed the Earth is not moving. And if the Earth is not moving and we are the center of the observational universe, then that puts us in a very special place, and it could only be that we were created and designed. It could not be that life just came out, on its own in the modern paradigm. And so there's a whole lot behind that. Did it freeze up again? Roger that. Yeah, welcome. I see blue, and sometimes I don't recognize it. The different ones, because there's a couple. Stephen was in here, I think, and Ducties, and Roger that. T-Rex, welcome. But yeah, so I was talking about dinosaurs. So we actually have all sorts of bones that have been discovered with red blood cells still in the marrow of the bone from dinosaurs. In just the regular emissions of radon in the earth deteriorate the red blood cells in any living thing in the bones. And at the very most, this is another limiting factor, at the very most amount of time with the places of the earth that have the least amount of radon, those bones could not have been more than 12,000 years old. But they were actually found in a place that had high levels of radon, meaning those bones were probably less than 3,000 years old. And that goes against the paradigm. But here's the thing, prior to them being called dinosaurs, they were called dragons. The word dinosaur wasn't even invented until the 1800s. And by that time, most of those very large reptilian predators had been killed off by man because they posed a danger to men. We have records of Chinese emperors having a dragon keeper, meaning they had dragons that they kept, which is an interesting thing. Another point about that is the Chinese cycle of the New Year's has a beast that represents each year: the year of the dragon, the year of the rabbit, the year of the rat, the year of, but every single one of them are actual living creatures. They're not mythological creatures, but the powers that want to control the information and indoctrinate people would prefer that people believe that dragons are a mythological creature, but they're not. Most of them have been killed off into extinction, is what it looks like. But they've actually found tribes in Congo that have painted and described locally and recently pictures of what we call Stegosaurus, of a smaller variety that is observed in the Congo. And so some of those creatures were able to still manage to stay alive where man hasn't inhabited the area. And that's one of the things, like I have been quoted as saying over and over again, that I strongly hold to. My conclusion is that all large predators have a purpose in the ecosystem. They keep the prey animals at a minimum so that the prey animals don't destroy the earth by over harvesting or over foraging. And then when man inhabits a land and they dwell to basically what's the word, when man comes into a wild area and they begin to inhabit, dwell in, and populate the area, it's important that men kill off the large predators that would not only bring competition to us, but also present a danger to our families and our communities, our society. And dragons presented a large, in fact, there's a lot of writings, and just about, actually, from what I understand, is every continent of the world has some kind of writings regarding dragons. And it's not because they all had the same myths going around the world. It's because dragons actually existed. We call them dinosaurs now. And the reason we call them dinosaurs is because the name was changed back in the 1800s. But that's redundant because I already said that. I'm going to read here real quick. What's up, Roger? Hello. Hey, buddy. Hey, what's going on? Hey, Zara. I just got here. What are you talking about? I'm talking about dragons and dinosaurs, which are the same thing. I always figured Satan attempted to create life, failed, and created dinosaurs in the process. No, actually, that would not be good, because God is the one that created all things. And for his pleasure and for his glory, he created all things. Yes, he is the only one that creates. There is no other creator. Men can invent and men can design, but as far as creating, that's an interesting thing, though, too. Talk about semantics of words. We use the word content creator. We are making content, but we're not creating it. Because creation is exclusive to the Lord. There's only one that can create. And it actually says somewhere in the scriptures, I think it's in Proverbs, that he, and also in Genesis, he create all things that he created in 6 days. And without him, nothing was created, the Bible says. I'm trying to think of what I was getting at. There's a scripture that says, I got to look it up. I can't remember the exact scripture or what it says. I'm usually pretty good with remembering scriptures. But there is a scripture that says something to the effect of, there is nothing that was not created in the days of creation, the 6 days of creation. He created all things. And I know that what they've observed in science is like things like matter doesn't appear. We don't, and matter always, all matter exists, has always existed from the beginning, and that you can't destroy matter. You can change it, but you can't destroy it. And it's the same thing with energy. You can't destroy energy, but you can change it. You can't create or destroy energy. It can be used, but it can't be created or destroyed. I always figured, so I already saw it, yeah. But yeah, I mean, we have so many records, but the vast majority of dinosaurs were killed off at the flood. And yes, Noah took 2 of each kind of dragon, is what they were called, onto the ark. He didn't have to take adult ones. In fact, that would have been foolish. He probably every creature that he took were young ones. All he needed to do for the unclean was have 1 pink and 1 blue one. All he had to do for the clean ones was have 7 pink and 7 blues. And the atmosphere prior to the flood had much higher oxygen levels and a much higher pressure. And so it would have been very conducive. If you look at the design of most of those dragons, they didn't have the capacity with their nostrils to bring in the amount of oxygen that would be necessary in today's atmosphere. But under a high pressure with a greater volume of oxygen being, pressurized, they would have been able to be alive. But after the flood, God changed the atmosphere, because prior to the flood, it never rained upon the earth. But then after the flood, that's when something changed atmospherically that God made to cause low pressure to come in. It won't rain in a high pressure system. That's another thing. If you watch the barometric pressure, if you watch it, you'll see it'll never ever rain with a high pressure system. The barometer has to drop in order for rain to come. And the reason is because the pressure prevents the water, the H2O, from evaporating and becoming clouds. And so it would keep it down at the ground level, which would cause a mist to come up from the earth and water the earth, which is what God said took place before the flood. It never rained, but there was a mist that came up from the ground and watered the earth. And that's one of the reasons I love science, actual science, is what we observe in all of this world only confirms what God already said. And God's words are historically accurate. They are scientifically accurate. They are prophetically accurate. And they are literally true. That's my own saying. I'm going to just pound that in continually. Uh-oh, what happened? I got T-Rex, it says, is my number one fan. King Arthur is my number two fan. And Kendall is my number three fan. I bumped the fan button. There's like a fan button. Let me see who the top fans are. All right, I got to set my alarm for this stuff. What am I going to... I got... All right. I think we'll go 10 minutes on the steamer. I just cut up all that broccoli. Now I'm going to steam it. And then I mix Land O'Lakes American cheese. Yummy. And mix that in with some butter and milk. I might do cream instead of milk. And God said there's nothing new under the sun, including the internet and AI, the tree of knowledge. Well, yeah, you know, all of these things. The tree of knowledge was kept. The man could not eat of it. In fact, we have a record of it showing up in, no, it's not. It's the tree of life. The tree of life was kept from man. The tree of knowledge, I don't even know if we have that anymore. It would have to be, there's another interesting thing. The tree of knowledge would have had to have been a tree that did not have seed within itself. Very interesting, because God said in the beginning, and I think it's in chapter 2, behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree yielding seed that has its seed within itself. For you it shall be for meat. Well, that means that, you know, he said every tree. So if God said, don't eat of the tree of knowledge, he didn't give him that to eat for food, then that would mean that tree didn't have seed in itself. But yeah, I don't think we have that. I think as they were kicked out, and that was in the garden, that was specific to the garden that God planted in Eden. It was not put throughout the entire world. It was in one location that was the garden that God planted, which is kind of interesting how that works. But and then he kept the tree of life. That's what I was thinking of. We have a record of the tree of life showing up in the time when Christ returns. And so, yeah, we're going to be able to have the tree of life again. But they were not allowed to have the tree of life, because then they would be able to live forever. What's that, a green apple? What is that? Yeah, green apple. Yeah, there's another thing. The deception of, you know, the apple, and the Catholic Church is widely responsible for a lot of that. I got Do Not Disturb turned on. The deception is that it's an apple, you know, Eve ate the apple. No, she didn't. She ate the fruit of the tree of knowledge between good and evil. But in the deception, Steve Jobs, who was a Satanist, his actual mantra, his personal mantra was, we are as gods, which is what Satan said to Eve in the garden. In the day that you eat the fruit thereof, your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like him. Knowing good from something, I don't remember the words exactly, but the temptation was to be like God. And that's Steve Jobs also considered himself to be a god, and he literally, I gotta drop this down, it's getting too violent. So Steve Jobs created this image for his computer, the apple. It was one apple, or I should say, it's an apple with one bite taken out of the corner, the edge of it, signifying the apple, or signifying the fruit in the garden, showing the deception that it was an apple when it wasn't an apple, but also underlying that it was that he's offering the tree or the fruit of the tree of knowledge, because his devices were very effective at bringing knowledge to people and distorting that which is good and that which is evil. And that's the thing that the tree of knowledge gave Adam and Eve, was knowledge of or between good and evil. And that's really where we're at right now. We're kind of in a place worldwide where people are thinking evil is good and good is evil. And that's not a prophecy of Scripture for the last days, which I've heard people falsely say. There's only one place in Scripture, it's Isaiah. It's in Isaiah, I don't know exactly where it is, but I think it's Isaiah chapter 4, chapter 5, that says, "Woe unto those who call good evil and evil good, that set light for darkness and darkness for light." But some people say, "Oh, that's a prophecy for the last days," and it's like, no, it's not. That's not what the Bible says. It's not a end times prophecy. Okay. Sounds just like the description of the internet. Yeah, I think that's what many would want people to believe. The internet is a highway of information and knowledge, but not knowledge between good and evil. It's actually deceiving people into thinking evil is good and good is evil. And they actually hide knowledge. That's another thing. That it's, people's eyes aren't opened on the internet. People's eyes are being basically putting blinders on them and feeding them all kinds of information. The control of information, which reminds me, I've got a documentary called The Minds of Men, and it's a documentary that goes into the history of the globalists' attempts to do mind control experiments. And there's a lot of things that they're able to manipulate people with, to be able to control people. But one of the things they were never able to break beyond the barrier was a person's ability to choose their own free will. That's one thing that was observed throughout all of the experiments, is that a person still, no matter what kind of controls that they tried to use in their experiments, they couldn't overcome man's own free will. But what they did learn, and this is key to the internet, what they did learn is man will always make decisions based upon what he knows. If you don't know that there's a 5-star restaurant around the corner, and you're only presented your whole life with McDonald's or Burger King, and you don't know there's a 5-star restaurant, you're going to choose one of the two, McDonald's or Burger King. It's controlling the information so that your choice is based upon what you know, which is why censorship is so important, because the internet is a place where they're trying to keep people into these little boxes of information and knowledge, and they've effectively done it through getting people to believe that censorship, that anything that hurts their little heart should be censored. Don't block that person, he said something bad. That's why I don't censor on my channel. I'm 100% opposed to censorship for the content of somebody's speech, because you never know, somebody could come in here angry as fuck, but they might have something valuable to share. And, they could be angry, they could be having a mood or whatever, and you delete them. Now you've just completely prevented them from giving you information. And YouTube does enough censoring already as it is. Food sacrificed unto idols, like McDonald's. Yeah, I've heard the rumors, I've heard the stories. I don't know. I mean, I was at a McDonald's one time, and it was the first time I'd eaten McDonald's in probably 2 or 3 years. I hadn't eaten McDonald's at all in a long time, but I was really hungry. The smell of it got me. I was craving it. I go in there. My sons wouldn't even eat it, and they were young. And I sat at the table, and I prayed loud enough for the people next to me to hear me. And I said, "Lord God, please change the molecular structure of this garbage crap poison I'm about to throw down my throat, in Jesus' name." And this lady looked at me. She looked so angry that I said that. But I'm like, that's what it is, you know? But, you know, the Bible does say all creatures are good, nothing to be refused if eaten with thanksgiving is sanctified by the word of prayer, by faith and the word of prayer. And so, you know, I don't make it a habit to go to fast foods. Yeah, you're not making me hungry, right? Yeah. Oh, but right now I'm actually steaming broccoli. And I'm going to get that nice and steamed. I'm going to make a nice cheese sauce and add some peppers and probably cayenne and black pepper and salt and just eat that with potatoes. That's going to be my meal tonight. Oh, I hear it. Yeah, it's got to go a little longer. I'm going for about another 5 minutes, and it's probably time for it as soon as I'm saying it. That's one of the things, you know, patience is important for food. People want it now. They want it quick. As soon as their stomach starts to feel an appetite, they want that food now. Um, I like to prepare and plan, and I realize that making good food takes longer. You know, I'll pull shit out of the freezer. I'll sometimes prepare, like when I make a brisket, I got to pull that out of the freezer a week before I make it. You know, and then after it thaws, then I do a liquid soaking marinade. Then I do a dry brine marinade, and then I cook it for like 22 hours. You know, and when it's done, oh man, is it fucking great. I just got back from walking my dog, and nice to hear you still streaming when I got back. Cool, cool, welcome back. What is your opinion on what is happening in Nepal? I have not heard. I'm going to look it up so you don't have to type it. Nepal government overthrown. Oh, interesting. How Gen Z led protests to Nepal's first female prime minister in power. Nepal picked up. I'm just going through the headlines, and I already know it's all propaganda because I googled it. So I'm reading through the propaganda. Nepal picks up pieces after protests topple government. First female. Yeah, it's already got the signs of being a parliament in flames, a leader toppled, Nepal Gen Z protesters, like maybe being agent provocateur kind of a situation. I don't know so geopolitically, I'm not really familiar with how um, all of the different nations play into the chessboard. It's a three-dimensional chessboard. That sounds healthy and hearty. I fasted all day yesterday, just had 5 eggs and 4 pieces of toast since midnight. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll look more into this. What is um but yeah, so geopolitically I don't know how or what the script is for all of the nations, but one thing that I like to point out to people is in 2020 we saw 187 nations of the earth complete walking in lockstep with the orders because they are all controlled by the same bankers. Every one of them, they are controlled. There are a few, like a president of one of those African countries, I don't know if it was Ghana, I'm not sure, that showed the bullshit of the COVID test because he literally did the swab test on Coca-Cola. He did the swab test on a papaya fruit. He did the swab test on a goat and something else. There's like 5 things, 4 or 5 things that it tested positive for. And he's like, this is bullshit. You know, but he was still bound to the um agreements that they signed because the bankers, the central bankers, own the power of his currency, and they will destroy his entire country just by crashing the economy. And so that's how the bankers have taken over all the nations of the world. And, whenever you hear that Russia or China or India or United States or Britain or, North Korea, all of these different, Iran, Israel, all of these different oppositional forces, they're all working on the same script. And the people that are the leaders of these countries are eating at the same table and drinking from the same cup. They're not rogue. They're not. They're not at enmity. The people. They keep the people thinking that they're their enemies, and they get the people brainwashed to believe that we need to go to war. But actually, they make even more money and take more power away from the people when there's a war going on. They make tons of money, and they sacrifice millions of people. Good evening, Huntington. What's going on, fellow chatters? Felt the good cells naturalizing my bad. Neutralizing my bad cells yesterday. Felt like I popcorn popperins. Interesting. Heard of Albania now have an AI turning their country as prime. I did hear something about that Albania thing. I'm not convinced one way or the other yet. There's a lot of misinformation. Even like the Charlie Kirk thing, I've seen too much evidence that shows that he probably was not even killed, that it was a complete staged event. That's for sure. There's no doubt in my mind that it is a 100% complete staged and orchestrated event. I'm not sure if he's been killed or if he's not. It looks like, and I'm definitely like about the 90 percentile range that, he's still alive, that they just killed off his character. And the reasons I say that are the evidences that I've seen. Google and YouTube will only allow one video of his, that I've seen, one video of his the moment he was assassinated. And they've done the age restriction on it, and you can see the one angle that they give you. And it looks like, and I'm not saying for sure, but it looks like this was edited and AI altered after the video was taken. So I think it's not the original video. I think it's an edited AI version to make conspiracy theorists look out of touch with reality. But there is a picture of him with his right hand, and you can see clearly that his ring was on his ring finger when he goes to set the microphone down. And as he brings the microphone up when he's falling over, his ring changes to his pinky finger. And that's video editing for sure. Was it AI? And some people are like, oh, the whole event was AI. I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying that. I'm more prone to think that video was uploaded to an editor and then uploaded onto the platforms. But that's the only one that YouTube's allowing. But there's a ton of video footage which you can find on Odyssey and other places that haven't been edited, and you can see clearly when they pulled him away, there was no blood trail on the ground behind him. You can see that the guy that was his cameraman was there, took his SD card out, took the chair. This is an interesting thing somebody pointed out. The chair that Charlie Kirk was sitting in, which is evidence at a murder scene, right, a crime scene, took the chair and moved it underneath the camera and stood on the chair to take down the camera that he had on behind him and pull out the SD card so that he could go into the SUV with Charlie Kirk. So they're taking all of the evidences, the SD cards, and getting rid of it so that they don't have that out there. But there's so much. There really is. Okay, so that one is probably done. Yay! I get carried away talking about these actual deceptions in this world. It's ooh, I'm gonna have to make my way up north tomorrow. Anyway, let's see. What are you saying about the leaders sit together And laugh is 100% correct. Oh, I'm sure of it, dude. I'm sure of it. Could have been, it was Optimus robot clone with synthetic flesh made in his image, sort of like a self-destructing Terminator whose neck exploded inside. Yeah, I don't think so. It's an interesting theory, but no, I'm pretty sure he was there. You know, I'm pretty sure it was him. It wasn't some kind of robot or whatever. But there is these prosthetics that they use for Department of Homeland Security. Actually has a whole list of things that they use. They take our money, and under Freedom of Information Act requests, you can find out what they spend it on, and you can get policies. And there's a lot of people that have published those policies and those procedures, and they actually have crisis drills that they go through, where they actually hire people that put together Hollywood prosthetics. They use blood squibs, which are basically fake blood that's pumped through tubes with pneumatic pressure to simulate wounds, you know. And that's actually what I'm more prone to believe, is that he had a device on him. You can see there's a clear line across here, and if you ever look, in fact, I think I did upload it, but I was like, yeah, you know what, this is I may have deleted it. I'll have to check. But there was a video that shows prosthetics where they literally build out the skin from where it is, say on his neck, and so it's a foam prosthetic they build out, and they paint it, and they make it look exactly like his neck, and it'll have a tube that runs up, and then it's got a spot that's been cut out, already pre-cut out, and then patched so that the pressure will pop it out. But here's an interesting thing: if you look, the initial blow blew out the blood out of his neck here, and then when he keeled over, it wasn't squirting out of his neck anymore. Even though you could still see his neck wound, it was squirting out of here. You know, this is where it was literally pulsating and squirting. If it was still pulsating up here, it wouldn't have been pulsating down here. You know, and so the details are what I look at critically to kind of put together what I think happened. But I think it's foolish to become dogmatic in a belief of something when we really don't know. One thing we do know is that it was 100% staged, orchestrated event. That's one thing that is absolute certain. And then to see it, and that's another thing that causes me to think that it was probably not, that he probably is still alive, is his grieving widow's 20-minute or 18-minute speech. That speech was well prepared, it was well written, and it was well rehearsed 2 days later after her husband died. And she's given a speech with all sorts of fake emotions, and then wiping no tears from the side of her eye a couple of times. And she would look up, and she, you know, it's like the whole thing is just, it was disgusting to watch. It was hard for me to watch. There we go. And those things are the kinds of things that lend me to believe that it's more likely than not that he's alive, and they just killed off his character. He was associated with J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel of Palantir, and you know, the people that are controlling information in the world. You know, it's like, well, you're not going to be a born-again believer in Jesus Christ like he claimed. Well, he didn't claim to be born again. He just claimed to be a believer. But you're not going to be a born-again believer having the Spirit of God and be deeply associated with these deep state organizations and people. It's not going to happen, you know, because what fellowship does light have with darkness? Nothing. None. Nada. What do you want, baby girl? And if a man has the Spirit of God, God is going to, at very minimum, give a great discernment over your funders and not allow you to be funded by the wicked men that want to have their strings of control over you. That's not what God wants people to do. Hold on, I gotta read this. I'm missing something. What's for dinner? Oh, I'm sorry, you did ask me that. Maybe I said it. I'm having broccoli, steamed broccoli and potatoes. Hey Tim, haven't seen you in a while. What's up? The ring, the letter F on his shirt. Yeah, I saw that. Disappeared, the reappearance. And that's why I think that was all AI or edited after the original thing. It just doesn't make sense because there were thousands of people there. His shirt disappeared. Okay. Reappeared. The black spot from his shoulder jumping to where the wound is. None of that even means a lot. He was shot in the neck with no exit wound. Yeah, right. No conspiracy theory there. You noticed the tube under the shirt, too. Yeah, exactly. The PayPal Mafia, Peter Thiel. Yep. That his ex-boyfriend tossed off a balcony. Oh, I don't know about that one. Interesting. I need to get my ducks in a row here. I need to get out my potatoes. And then I also thought out some Alfredo sauce. I'm going to be making some chicken Alfredo. I baked a bunch of potatoes last night. So now all I have to do is reheat them up. I think I'll go with this one. Sorry guys, I don't want to miss something. PayPal Mafia, yeah. Oh, that's right. You said PayPal. I did. I missed the PayPal. Yeah, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. They were the founders of PayPal. That's no BS. Yeah, tossed off a balcony. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't think I heard about that. James Corbett did a whole thing. I think it was early this year or later last year. I think it was late last year. It was before. I don't know. I have to look. But James Corbett at CorbettReport.com did a whole thing on Peter Thiel and who he was presented to the world by. You know, they're all wicked. They're all wicked. I think I'm going to have. Sorry, I don't mean to be ignoring you guys. I got to focus on this. Cooking, man. Timing is everything. Already got a piece of that butter. Holy shit. I love these old ceramic freaking coated pans. That and cast iron are my favorite things to cook with. I just melted butter, milk, cheese into a little saucepan, and then pour the broccoli into there and mix it, because it just makes like a cheese sauce. And then add my peppers, plural. Ooh, another thing, I just fermented a bunch of serrano peppers. A little bit of chili pepper. Chili pepper is really good for you. A bunch of serrano peppers I fermented, and that gives it that vinegar flavor to the pepper, and it's really good. You can ferment, and it gives you a lot of good microbiome bacteria. I think I'm going to try some of those with my baked potato. Wanted you to read my last comment, so I retracted the last three. Oh, okay. I did see the last comment, I think. Oh, wait, maybe. Hold on a second. Could have been that was Optimus Robot Clone. Oh, I did see. Yeah, that was the last comment, I think. Okay. Oh, yeah, I think I said that. But I don't really know what an Optimus clone is. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay. I'm guessing that's like the CIA program. Now, I gotta add butter. Actually, no, I don't have to add that now. I can do that later. I got enough in there. Get rid of that. Salt, that's what's missing. Salt is good. Yeah, you know, people are taught by doctors that salt is bad for you. They're taught in medical school that salt is bad for you. Salt is one of the most essential electrolytes that we have in our body. That's a necessary part of the function of our the cells of our body. And there are many other electrolytes that we need to have. Magnesium, manganese, iron, a few. There's a few, you know, a lot of them actually. But when somebody has salt and then salt triggers their high blood pressure, they're told that salt's a problem. And I don't believe that's true. I believe that salt is allowing the cells of their body to function properly, and that the high blood pressure is showing it's like a symptom of something else going on in the body. But when you lower your sodium intake, you don't allow your body to fire properly, and then it's not going to indicate to you that that's what's going on. And it could be problems with minerals. It could be toxicity. It could be something that going on in the brain. You know, too much aluminum. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what the cause of it is. But I don't believe that salt is, because God says salt is good. And we can observe it's a necessary electrolyte for our bodies. Okay. Baked potatoes. Yum. Yum, 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 yum. Mashing this all over the place. Yeah. Oh, I gotta get some of that out. I keep my butter on the counter. All right, hold on. Sorry, dude. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Well, YouTube is fucking with my comments, bro. They made that comment invisible in the chat. Yeah, dude, I hate that, dude. That's why I don't censor. I don't want people to think that it's me doing it, for one. I know YouTube does that. Live chat censorship. Tesla Optimus robots and Elon DOD government contract robots. Okay. I really haven't looked into too much of that. T-Rex, your comment that ID read was visible in the chat. My grandma put salt in everything. She lived to be 98, right? And your grandma probably didn't have anywhere near the toxins going into her body that we do today with modern food. It's ridiculous. I didn't see that comment. I only saw the one where you talked about Optimus. That's the only one I saw, but I did read that one too, so I was like, wait a minute. He must be talking about something else. Optimus robot. Oh, yeah. No. Okay. Salt and pepper. Ooh, I forgot. Well, I almost forgot. Serrano peppers. These things I let ferment for like 5 days, and they are freaking delicious. Yum, yum, yum. And I'll bet they're going to taste good with potatoes and cheese. I'm going to try it now. Put some more in there later. Okay. And where is my other cheese? Huh. Oh, there it is. Found it. I don't buy pre-shredded cheese very often. In fact, I don't think I bought it in like 6 or 8 months. I freeze it. It's okay, but I prefer to buy real cheese that isn't full of sawdust. And do the shredding myself. Everything to eat good, it takes time. And we're living in a microwave generation. Everybody wants it now. Burger King, have it your way. Have it now. Had to do a lot of chopping on that broccoli because I don't have teeth to chew on the pieces. Which kind of sucks. That's where I'm at. Yeah, that'll go. Yep. All right, back in. Back on track. Let's see, I'm going to read these real quick here. You just confirmed they disappeared it? Okay. I want that one. Really? My grandma put, okay, let me see. Extra comment that. Oh, okay, that one, yeah. Here in Canada, since the Indians got all the fast food jobs and stuff, now Burger King no longer offers have it your way. Oh, man. Since all the Indians got all the fast food jobs, huh? They don't want to give it your way. Whoppers are now made as the king intended. Oh. Yum. Yep. That's delicious. Those fermented serrano peppers in with my baked potatoes. All I did was it's reheated baked potatoes. I heat them on a skillet with butter, and then it's got butter, salt, cayenne, black pepper, and serrano peppers with cheese sprinkled over it, and yeah, salt. So that's good. I've always loved vegetables since I was a kid. I never understood how other kids didn't like broccoli or Brussels sprouts or green beans. But there's not many beans I like. That's one thing beans and turnips. Oh, I couldn't stand them. There are a few that I didn't like as a kid. Now we're outside. No, I'm just eating. I don't really want to eat on the camera. You got the tree frogs are starting to get into their end of the season calls. It's pretty cool at night. The tree frogs get really loud. They start these major choruses, and as the temperatures get cooler, most of them quiet down, and you'll only hear one or two that will kind of make its little ribbit sound, and then you'll hear another one or two over in the distance ribbiting back, and they'll talk, but I'm amazed that they can actually hear each other when there's a chorus of them with hundreds of tree frogs. Hold on here. I hate how when you ask for extra mustard or ketchup, the worker tries to charge you more. Yeah, I know, right? Like if they get commission from it. Their greed is what actually got me to stop eating fast food. Interesting. Yeah, I just couldn't see spending $8 to $10 or $12 for a freaking meal when I make my food for usually less than $1.50. Going to dinner with the family tomorrow to celebrate my 50th. All right. This restaurant has a tomahawk veal chop. Never had it before. Love me veal veggies. Love me veal veggies. Horseradish is delicious. Yes, horseradishes. I love it. I got horseradish out back. When is Marie? Do you know when is the best time to harvest horseradish? and how to harvest it so that it keeps coming back. Do you harvest the leaves or do you harvest the root? Hmm. My own horseradish sauce. No, I have horseradishes growing in my garden, and they're what's it called? Perennial. They come back every year. I tried the leaves. I have taken horseradish root before, and grated it and made my own sauce out of it. Yeah, but I haven't seen a really good recipe for it, and the learning curve for it seems to be pretty high. For me, it's kind of like making pizza. I'm from Chicago. I'm a foodie, and pretty picky with pizza. And so I've seen other people trying to perfect pizza and failing, and I've seen the learning curve on it seems to be pretty high. To me, I'll spend $40 to have an Italian do it that's been doing it his whole life with all the right ingredients and the right recipe. It's not worth it to me to go through a long learning curve for something like that. Um, you get the Impossible Burger. Wait, isn't that the one that's not made? It's made with no actual meat or no flesh. The Impossible Burger. Hmm. Every pizza in America. Well, of all the good pizzerias, yeah, they kind of have to be now. The expense of everything is way up. Yeah, Thai fried rice, that was something that, to me, the learning curve was real short. I've been making rice for a long time and marinating foods and chickens and doing stir fries, and so it was pretty easy for me. First time I made it, I was like, nah, it wasn't that good. Um, Added some oyster sauce and did the marinade different, changed the rice recipe to make it with my homemade chicken broth, which I flavor up real good. And then when I made it, like the very first time I made it, the very second time I ever made it, it was better than any restaurant Thai fried rice at Thai food places that I've ever had. So with me, some things are the learning curve is short, and it's worth it. But baked goods, that's something I do very few baked goods. I do make my own bread, but it's just a very basic bread recipe. Um, I've tried cinnamon rolls. The learning curve on that seems to be a lot higher. Um, Tried pastry breads. I'll let the bakers take care of that. Maybe one day I'll have a wife. That'd be great. The one thing though I thought about is if I ever do have a wife, um, I'm going to be doing most of the cooking, unless she's a very, very good cook. I'm going to be the chef. Be nice to find a wife that bakes. But yeah, I'm a picky eater, especially if I'm paying the bill. I go to restaurants. To me, 90% of the restaurants are just average or below. And I don't want to spend my money uh, on food that is nowhere near as good as what I make. I mean, I'm not saying I'm like the greatest chef in the world. I'm not. I'm learning. But there are some dishes I make that I've never ever had another restaurant make it anywhere near as good. Alfredo, chicken Thai fried rice, um, um, my ribeye steaks. I've never had anyone touch it. My brisket. I've had a couple people close. I've been to a couple places that had a brisket that was close to as good as mine, but no. Like, and it's not just me being biased because I put the effort into it, but everybody that's had those dishes have said it's the best they've ever had. Except for one person that had my Alfredo sauce. And they said they preferred the stuff in the jar from Sam's Club. And I was like, oh, okay. You must not like grilled cheese. That was funny. Got this Italian restaurant. Oh, wait, hold on. Did I miss something? I didn't want mod status and you just did it anyway. Oh, what's this? Yeah? I think it is insane to. Well, then I took it away and then I asked you if you wanted it back. Do you want it? Do you want me to take the mod status away? It's insane to go vegan but still chase after the meat flavor. Yeah, who are they kidding? They're literally, it's like pornography for vegans, meat flavored stuff. Think about it. That's like, oh, if you don't want flesh, but you want all of your stuff to taste and to look like flesh, stop fooling yourself. You want flesh. Oh, yeah. I got this Italian restaurant a few blocks down. They have great pizza, but man, they are expensive. Yeah. The Italians up here in Chicago, though, I gotta say, I've been around the country and I've been to Missouri too. I've never found a pizza in anywhere around the country and around the world in places I've traveled internationally that can even come close to Chicago pizza. And there's a reason Chicago's known for it. And it's not just because of the Italians. It has to do with the ingredients that they use here. Um, but and they're right by Wisconsin. It's like literally an hour south of Wisconsin, the cheese capital of the world, where they make the best cheeses in the world. I mean, you couldn't get a better combination. You got the Italians, you got the I forgot what kind of, there's a special tomato they use for that. It's not the Romas, but it's a different one. To make the good Italian, and then all the fresh herbs and the best. Um, but the dough, that's something that takes some work. Okay, I'm missing. Hola, ¿cómo está? Hey, Robert, what's going on? Welcome back. Why am I not seeing the comments you are responding to? Um, that's a good question. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. YouTube's been doing a lot of changes, and it's constant changes. They don't just make a change and it stays that way. They make all these little glitchy changes throughout their platform, which is it's fucked up. I hate I hate the way that it works. Gotta go. All right, Marie. Thanks for joining. Take care. Peace. Are you that close to Chicago or Indiana? Dude, I'm an hour and 20 minutes or 25 minutes from Chicago. I am in Indiana, but I'm south. If you go an hour and 20 minutes south of Chicago, and then go east 5 minutes, and that's where I am. I'm literally on a border town of Illinois and Indiana. But I'm way out in the country. You know, I actually grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago, 30 minutes from the city. Maybe 35 minutes from Chicago. And I was on the border of the country then. You know, it's like as soon as you go south of there, it's all country. And it still kind of is for the most part. Because the vast majority of people don't want to commute further than 40 minutes or 45 minutes. But to me, it's worth it to go that extra half hour to get the fuck away from people. I have peace. You don't, when I'm on live, you don't hear ambulances and sirens running around, and I don't have fucking cops snooping around my fucking shit. Don't have people vandalizing, and don't have gangs. None of that shit that's in the city. We've had our a couple of bouts out here in the country where there have been some people that have gone on these crime sprees, and I actually arrested a guy behind my house one time who was a ringleader of these robberies. And what they were doing was they would go in the daytime and they would find places out in the country where the building, whether it was a pole building or a house, was off of the road so you couldn't see it. They'd just go down driveways, and then they'd see a building or road, and they'd knock on the door, and if nobody's home, they'd walk around the property and kind of inspect the place, and then they'd come back. And they were looking for places that were vacant, and sometimes they would scope them out ahead of time. They'd come back at night, and they'd have a list of houses that they would go to, and they'd hit 30 or 40 in a night. You know, just in and out, in and out, in and out. And they were using two vans. One was a big white, like a Chevy van, and the other was a minivan. And anyway, that's kind of a long story, but yeah, I actually arrested the ringleader. And they had, in less than a year's time, they had already committed somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 burglaries, is what the local detective said, between 5 counties. In fact, when I talked to the detective, he said he was on his way to a meeting of the detectives of all the counties, where they were going to try to bring their resources together to stop this crime ring because it was getting out of hand. You know, it was ridiculous. Which, that's one thing I was glad that they're actually trying to stop it. Let me see. I saw Chicago from the air once. That was enough for me. Yeah, no shit, man. I've had Chicago pizza before. It's not bad. Yeah, you really got to go to the Italian pizzeria, though. I mean, that's where you're going to find it. Just the quiet drones flying above that's tranquil. Yeah, I know. Yeah, even out here in the country, we have just a regular, a lot of people don't realize it. And honestly, I didn't know how much white noise is involved in airplanes until 9/11, when they grounded all of the air flights. The quiet in the air was eerie. It was something I don't think I've ever experienced in my life, because my whole life, the airplanes are flying all the time, and they just create a white noise that we don't even recognize. It's just a noise in the air that we don't even hear anymore because we've been brought up with it. But that day when there was no airplanes flying at all, I remember it clearly. That was one of the things about 9/11 that really kind of stuck out. That was wild. How far away is Howard County from you? Um, it's about 2 hours. About 2 hours away. Man, I'm bummed out about that dude. I really liked him. You know, despite the fact that we had different opinions, he seemed like a really cool guy. Nice and kind and seemed to love people, but he hates God. He absolutely hates God, and he'll say it's the idea of God, but he's hating me because I have an answer for a lot of the uh, apparent contradictory things he tries to bring up, and I'm like, dude, I have an answer for that, and it's logical. It's not unsensical, and he just gets triggered. He doesn't want to concede to the truth, and it's like, okay, well. But there's another thing too, and this is something I have kind of brought up. I brought it up to him. Is I think that it's probably a good idea if you're going to do like First Amendment auditing. I think it's foolish. Just to record. I think that's not wise because you don't have any other purpose than to make a record. It's antagonistic, and it leaves, not only is it antagonistic, but it also leaves a very sour taste in the mouth of people that work in public, and then the people that pay taxes. They don't want that. You go into a public place, and you just start recording people for no other reason than to record people. That's, you're exercising your right. Okay. But I think it's wise if you're to record any encounter you have with public officials, not to just exercise your rights, just as a given. Like, okay, so I have been lied to by cops before. I've been lied to by clerks before. I've been lied to by 911 operators before. I've been lied to by BMV people at the desk. I've been lied to, and so now I want to record them when I have to have my interactions with them. And if I have to go get public records for something, I'm going to record my interactions because they lie and they screw you, and I'm paying taxes to have this done. I think, to me, that's a valid thing. If somebody wants to do journalist investigations, that's a good thing. You want to do an investigation on a particular agency. I think that's a noble thing. You're gonna get backlash because they're all corrupt and they don't want you to find. One of the things I said, if these journalists really wanted to get to the heart of the problem, start doing records requests for financial records. Period. Everything that follow the money. See where the money's going. Start looking at corporations that got government contracts, and finding the connections and start publishing that. You're going to have a hell of a lawsuit on your hands because they're either going to off you or they're going to retaliate in many ways. Marie, she's Huntington Township Watch, comes in here. She holds her township to the Huntington Township, Pennsylvania. She holds their feet to the fire of transparency because she's a taxpayer and she doesn't want her money fucking fucked with, and she wants government to be run properly. Hey, kudos. That's a good thing. She's not recording the meetings because she's exercising her rights. She's recording them so she has an unbiased record of what's going on, and they don't like it. And they don't like being recorded because they're fucking corrupt. If you're working in the public, there's another thing. Government has it backwards. If you're a private citizen, the government should know nothing about you. But if you're a public servant, the citizens should know everything about you. And they got it backwards because we are the taxpayers paying them. They don't have a right to privacy of what they do with our resources and what they do against us. But, you know, we're living in a bass backward society. Ooh, you know what? I'm going to be right back. Who are we talking about? Huntington Township Watch. Probably Howard County. Just like the vegans and meat, if you believe in Satan, then you believe there's God and Jesus, right? And most people name on earth, I've heard Mexican name kids. Yeah, Jesus. But have you ever met a Jesus? No. Respect the name. It's interesting. I actually I wanted to name my firstborn son Jesus, but I didn't want to name him Jesus, right? But I wanted to honor God with the naming of my firstborn son. And so I looked into the Hebrew, and the name for Jesus is Yeshua in Hebrew. And when the Hebrew is translated into the English, it's Joshua. But when the Hebrew is translated into the Greek and then into the English, it's Jesus. And so so that's what I did. I actually, I named my son Joshua, my firstborn. And I called him my little Yeshua, because that's like the Yeshua, my imitation of a Hebrew accent. Yeshua! Oh, I love it. I was coming in here for a reason, and that reason was it's a Saturday night and I'm going to treat myself. Little bamboo, a little bit of Coke. Until cops concede that we have a right to record them, then we should continue to record them. Yeah, they already know we have a right. And I don't even I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. I got a pretty fucking pretty sick story that took place. I know I probably shared it before, maybe T-Rex has heard it. My hunting situation. And you know, I mean, if you're going to do First Amendment auditing, going out there just to record, I think the number one thing is, that's what my point was. I told Howard County Observer that it would be foolish for him to do it without having a criminal defense attorney and a civil rights attorney that he knows are going to represent him justly, and have somewhere upwards of $20,000, preferably $40,000 or more, but upwards of $20,000 in reserve to pay for any legal battles, to fight charges, because they're going to retaliate against you. And every single auditor that has gotten into that has found that out. There's not one that hasn't. If they've done auditing, if they've done First Amendment auditing more than a dozen times, they've already faced criminal charges for something, usually. That's like, I'm going to say usually. I'm not going to say always, but yeah, it pisses me off. And it shouldn't be that way, but that's how it is. That's the way the ball bounces here in the United States of the USSA. The story I was going to tell about cops and so yeah, it's always good to record cops. I love to hunt. I'm a bow hunter. I'm very successful bow hunter. I don't hunt for trophy. I hunt for meat. I go in and I go out. I get out. That's my deal. This public land that I was hunting. For years, I'm gonna plug my phone in here because I'm sure it's getting low. Yeah, it is getting low. So this public land that I hunted, I'd have to park in the parking lot and walk about a mile and a half, maybe a little bit more, but it was around a mile and a half to get to where most hunters aren't and the deer are. And they feel safe because there's not a lot of pressure way back in the woods there. One day I'm watching a video and somebody says on the video that there's a law in Indiana that allows you to park on the roadway, like literally on the paved road. Not on the side of the road, but on the road, like in the lane of traffic. And I was like, I had never heard of that. And so I looked it up because I was thinking, man, this would be helpful for me way out in the country where I hunt if I could save myself 3/4 of a mile or a mile of walking distance to be able to park there so I don't have to walk back and forth, and then drag your deer. You know, once you kill a deer, now you got to bring all your shit back. You know, your bow and your climbing gear and all the hunting stuff, and then you got to get your field dressing stuff, and then you got to go and field dress it and drag the deer out. And it would just save a lot of energy. And so I looked it up, and sure enough, there's this law. It says you're good to park on the roadway as long as nobody can see you, as long as people can see you for at least 200 feet ahead. And there's one full lane of traffic that people can go around you on. And you can't be in a residential area, you can't be in a commercial area. And you can't be blocking any entrances into farm fields or person's driveway. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. So I called up the county sheriff's department and I talked with the chief deputy. And he had me on speakerphone, and the sheriff himself was in the room, as was the county attorney. So all three of them are hearing me, and I bring up this law. So he goes and looks up the law in front of these people, and he reads it, and he's like, you're right, you can park on the road. I said, I just want to make sure I'm not going to be in trouble. I said, I'm going to pull off as much as I can, but we don't really have big shoulders here. We have ditches off of the road without any shoulder in the country. And so I said, I'll pull off as much as I can. I'm not going to try to like block the whole roadway. And I pulled off enough so that so two cars could still go through. But I think I literally had almost all of my truck onto the grass area, but it was angled at an angle. I'm doing this because I was into the ditch a little bit with my wheels. That way my driver's side wheel was only maybe 8 inches onto the roadway. Most of it was off the road. But I just wanted to be able to park there, and I knew it was legal, so I'm like, cool. DNR didn't like that because DNR wants to be able to violate your Fourth Amendment right by copping your permit or your license, whatever they call it, your hunting license. They want to run your name. They want to see if you got warrants. That's what they want to do. That's bottle of Coke. Yeah, that's why I go. I buy my Sam's Club. I get the Mexican Coke that has sugar and not all the high fructose corn syrup. It's still not the greatest for you, but it's better than the cancer food that they give you with the regular Coke. We have a privilege to record them. Yep. Jesus, yeah. Until cops can see. Okay, so I was catching up on those. Our First Amendment privileges. Yeah, that's right. I've said it too. Right to record privileges. If they can take it away, it's not a right. Are being tampered with. YouTube is fishing out everyone. Taking naughty. Wait, everyone talking naughty about Kirk, the jerk, so that you fired. And so, yeah, the DNR guys, they want, and they got signs all over the property that says you must park in designated areas. They want you to park in their lot so that they can violate you. But there's a law that says I don't have to park in their lot, and I'm not under the DNR jurisdiction on the roadway as far as their property rules. You know, once you go onto their property, for some stupid reason, you're subject, it's supposed to be public property, but you're subject to all kinds of fucking draconian bullshit. And that's one of the reasons I don't hunt public land anymore, because now they want you to sign in and get permission to hunt. And I'm like, fuck that. Fuck that. Sign in my ass. Go, you know, it pisses me off. But, you know, you didn't have to sign into this place anyway. So I parked there, go hunting. Me and my son are hunting. And he saw some deer or something. I didn't see any. And we just had an evening hunt. And we head back to the truck. And sure enough, we get all of our gear back in the truck. And I'm getting ready to drive away when all of a sudden a DNR cop comes up behind me and lights me up. Now I'm stopped. I haven't been driving on the road. Immediately he lights me up. I told Joshua, I said, record him. And I pull out my phone. I walk up to him like this. Can I help you? And he says, he gets out of the car and he says, oh, I'm just checking to make sure you're okay. Yeah, wellness check. That's why you got to have the lights. As soon as they turn the lights on, you're not free to go. You are being detained. That is a legal detainment when they light you up, period. It's an illegal or unlawful detainment, but regardless, when they light you up, you are, I guess, lawfully detained, but it's illegal. They didn't have any legitimate reason. And this cop, I said, yeah, I'm okay. He said, yeah, we're just checking to see if you're, you know, everything's okay. I said, yeah, I'm okay. So then he starts asking investigatory questions. Hey, were you hunting back there? I'm not going to answer any of your questions. I got on my record too. I'm holding my phone out so he can see it. I'm not going to answer any of your questions. And he's like, oh, okay. So then he turns to my son and he starts asking my son questions. Did you see any deer when you were out there? You know, he's like trying. So here's the thing. They cannot demand to see your hunting license, your fishing license, or your trapping license unless either they see you hunting, fishing, or trapping, or you confess that you were hunting, fishing, or trapping. Apart from that, they got nothing. And I'd rather them just fucking leave me the fuck alone. And so, he doesn't get my son to admit that we were hunting. He doesn't even get my son to admit that we were on their property. But my son said, yeah, we saw some deer, but they weren't close enough. That was kind of like a clue. And I'm like, man, I taught you better not to answer questions. I don't have a problem talking to cops because I'm not going to answer their questions. I know I'll talk to them and I'll ask them my own investigatory questions, you know. So this cop, I started asking him questions. You know, did you take vow and oath did you swear a solemn oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America? Because your job is literally to violate the Fourth Amendment right. I don't like that people are forced to yield their Fourth Amendment right to get permission to be able to fucking kill an animal to eat. You know, he didn't like that. And, well, there were two cops there. Anyway, I'm going to catch up here real quick. They've been people losing their jobs and getting fired if you say anything negative about Chucky. Yeah, they're turning it into a huge thing, dude. Well, Rex, they created cancel culture and now they're reaping the reward, right? Just checking to see if you're okay. That's hysterical. I was fine until you interrupted my life. Exactly. Yeah, wellness check. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen where a wellness check turned out to either kill or brutally beat the person they were wanting to make sure it was okay. You know, yeah, I was doing fine until you interrupted. So anyway, after I caught this fucking cop in like 3 or 4 lies, trying to, maybe 5, I think it was 5, trying to get me or my son to admit that we were hunting. I said, I'm done with this. You know, you've lied like 4 or 5 times. Are we free to go, or am I being detained? I should ask that right away. Um, are we free to go, or am I being detained? And he says, "Oh no, no, you're not detained. You're free to go, even though the lights are going. But I got him on record. You know, that's important. Okay, your lights say that I'm being detained, but you said I'm free to go. So have a good night." And I went back into my truck. And and that's where I say it's important to record them. Absolutely. You know, I am not against recording public servants, but to do it just to record, that's asking for problems. Always. But I waited for him to leave, and he wasn't leaving. He was waiting for me to leave. 10 minutes goes by, and I'm like, well, I got to get back home. So I did a U-turn and headed down the road. He does a U-turn and heads down the road and comes up on my ass, rides my ass for 4 miles to pull me over for a fucking, uh, what was it? A registration light wasn't bright enough. And so he pulls me over, makes us get out of the car. There's another thing too, a lot of people don't know. Anytime a cop orders you out of the car, they have already framed in their mind an excuse to kill you or to use excessive force. The only reason they are legally allowed to order you out of the car is under Pennsylvania versus Mims, which was a decision for officer safety, that the officer is concerned or in fear for their life or their safety. And so if they frame that in their mind to order you out of the car, they already have a plan to escalate into and up to including death. And so keep that in mind anytime you're at a traffic stop and a cop orders you out of the vehicle. Always record your interactions with the police. 100%. We're in a beyond ass backwards world. Yep. You were being profiled as a person. That's not okay. Yep. One of my favorite is, do you have anything to hold me on? Oh, because you can't hold me for the purpose of looking for a reason to hold me on. Yeah. Yeah. Is there a crime that you suspect me of committing? You know, if you don't, then I should be free to go. So he gave me this ticket, orders us out of the car, me and my son out of the car again, gives me a ticket. Demanded to see my son's hunting license. My son yielded it. I wouldn't have. I don't know why. I guess he knew that my son was a little bit naive when it comes to dealing with cops because he's never had an interaction with a cop before. You know, that's a great fucking PR thing. Your very first interaction as a cop and you're going to fucking violate someone. You know, yeah, fucking pigs. Fuck them. Anyway, so I asked him when he goes to write me a ticket, I said, couldn't you just give me like a warning? He handed me the ticket and he says, I believe you were hunting. I've got it all on record. He says, I believe you were hunting back there without a license. And I was like, oh, no shit. I got you on record saying that. You believe I was hunting. That's why. And so he ended up not turning the ticket into the DA because if he would have, it would have been able to be thrown out. I would have been able to get a 1983 lawsuit against him because there is case law that states if it's not a ticket that particular officer or that particular department he works for normally gives people, then it shows retaliation. And he's a fucking possum cop giving me a minor vehicle infraction, or what do they call it, equipment violation ticket, which shows a retaliation. And I have him on record as saying it's retaliation because he unreasonably believed I was hunting without a license. So he didn't even turn the ticket into the DA. I had to get a DA to give me some kind of paperwork saying that, hey, you've never received it, because otherwise I didn't want to go to court over it, but I would. And then the very next weekend, I go hunting there, and not the DNR cops, but the actual county cops came and towed my vehicle while I was hunting during the rut, completely illegally. Oh, and the sheriff's, the chief deputy that I spoke with on the phone says, yeah, we don't want to tow anyone's vehicle. We'll give you if it was parked illegally, we would just put a sticker on the car, but we wouldn't even do that for like 48 hours or so. And then we try to call you and get a hold of you. The last thing we want to do is tow the car. I go hunting. I'm out in the field for 3 hours. I come back and my truck's gone. I was pissed. Yeah, fucking stealing my truck, right? So yeah, and then DNR wanted. They just sent me. I just recently got something from DNR in my email. It says, "Hey, we noticed you haven't purchased a license in a few years, and we kind of wanted to know why you're not hunting anymore." I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna respond to this. I'm gonna say, because of you motherfucking asshole tyrants, these cops are out there looking to fuck people over. You're constantly screwing people instead of working for the people. You're working against the people. You know, creating all kinds of stupid laws, telling me what color I outfit I have to wear on my own fucking property. You know, and all kinds of bullshit. You know, and I was like, yeah, I went off on him. I let him know. And I didn't, I still hunt, but I hunt my own private property where I don't need a hunting license. I've only got 1.68 acres. I don't have a lot of land. I got less than 2 acres of land, but deer come through here. And so, you know, I'm not going to be going out and getting a bunch of deer, because once I kill 1 or 2 deer here, then the deer kind of stop coming through this little corner of the woods I got. Yeah. Um, Pennsylvania versus Mims. They're supposed to have a reason to believe you're armed and dangerous and legally order you out of the car. Yeah, they're supposed to. The dissenting opinion on Pennsylvania versus Mims was very foretelling of what they were going to use it for. Because even though that's the legal reasoning, it's still a precedence that was set. And cops don't necessarily have to articulate or claim that that's the reason. They're taught in training that Pennsylvania versus Mims says we can order them out of the car, and they only order people out of the car when they're retaliating against people. That's the only time they order people out of the car, when they're angry with the driver. Not that they're scared or in fear for their life. And my thought is, if you're that much of a pussy where you're afraid of somebody that's driving a car, first off, don't get a job where you're fucking pulling them over and stopping them from traveling. If you're afraid of them, then don't fucking stop them. Right? You know? I mean, yeah, if you are in pursuit of somebody that just robbed a bank and killed some people, yeah, you're gonna fucking order them out of the car, right? Felony stop, 100%. But and what's with these ponytail cops? They're fucking popping up everywhere. When I was growing up, you didn't have fucking, no bitches were fucking cops. That's stupid. And I call them bitches because, I mean, if they're dumb enough to get a job as a cop, they're fucking not right. They're not right. Women shouldn't be cops, and they shouldn't be firemen. They shouldn't be roofers. Well, they aren't roofers. I don't see any women roofing. Once in a while, I'll see a woman that's doing logging work, but that's dumb. You know, that's dumb. They can't do even half the work that a man can do logging. I strongly object to the very concept of policing. So, yeah. Wow, you have 2 acres. Congratulations. Yeah, just less than 2 acres. What's this say? I'm rounding up. Oh yeah. Right, right. I just got some beer too. Okay, they have to in court if you require it. They don't have to articulate to you. Robert, in court, they don't need to say that they ordered you out of the car because they were in fear for their life. But that is the premise. They don't have to articulate that in court. In court, they have to articulate the reason for the stop, 100%. And they have to, any kind of a detainment, they would have to have reasonable articulable suspicion or probable cause in order to detain or in effect an arrest. And those things they have to um, produce in court. They have to articulate before a judge. But there's another thing, and it's the system. The system is fucking rigged. These small municipalities are under their local county. The Superior Court justices make bank off of the cops bringing in cases, and so they work together, right? And then all of a sudden, you're gonna fight the court, and if you had any time in the legal system, you see that the judges are fucking corrupt. So the judges, doesn't matter what the evidence is, the judge is going to fucking vote in favor or decide in favor of the people bringing them money. That's the way it goes. So then you have to do an appeal. Most people won't even fight it at the local level because then you got to go through an appeal anyway. But then very few, even fewer people will take it to an appellate level, to a higher court. And that's usually where you better have an attorney. There are very few people that can do pro se and make it through the higher courts. And sometimes in those higher courts, you'll find a judge that will be sympathetic to your cause, you know. But the process is the punishment. And these local cops know that they're not going to ever face accountability for their actions. And so they fucking violate people all the time. And qualified immunity and start causing them, cops to actually face charges for their crimes and fairly and justly. That would end a lot of the abuse. But I got a story. And this is something that one of the things I do say is we do need laws. We need government. We need government to be able to maintain civil society. Anarchy, voluntarism, it could never work in a real life practical situation. We need laws and we need enforcement of those laws. That's the only reason I'm in favor of policing in and of itself, as in the enforcement of the laws. But this is a police state, and that's what I'm opposed to, where they've got so many laws that it makes every single person a felon. All they got to do is have the evidence that you've committed a felony, that we carry around our fucking mobile surveillance devices everywhere we go. But I was up in Superior National Forest camping with my sons, and there was a guy I met on an online forum. He was into wild mushrooms and foraging and medicine and studying and learning the sciences, and we met on a forum. We talked on the phone every day for like 7 or 8 months. We just got along great. We were, he was, you know, uh, disabled and not working, and so I would have my Bluetooth on, and I would just talk to him while I'm working all day long, every day. And so we planned, hey, I'm going to bring my sons down there, and we're going to go camping for a week up in Superior National Forest. It was August, and my oldest son was probably 12 years old at the time. And we get up there, and we're having a great time. He furnished the canoes. We had 2 canoes, and the 4 of us. And so me and him, we go out. We were out there probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days or so maybe. And we were foraging mushrooms and collecting fire wood and having the fires and going fishing. We did a whole lot of fishing, and I took my son. Oh, when we left his town in Two Harbors, Minnesota, as soon as we got out of town, we had absolutely no cell phone signal. We drove north for 40 minutes or more with no cell phone signal, all the way through these side roads in the backwoods of Superior National Forest. No cell phone signal at all. And it was kind of, to me, it was kind of refreshing. We get up into these woods, and I take my son Joshua out onto the lake while Elijah and Tim are up on the hill at the campsite. And we go out and we go fishing and catch some fish, and then I switch it up. And now I put Joshua up on the hill, and then I take Elijah out. And I'm just that father son thing. We're going out. We get to the other side of this cove area where we were camped up at, and I hear Tim's truck start. Boom! Oh yeah, I haven't heard any of the truck vehicles, his or my truck, start the whole time we've been up, and it's pretty quiet. And so immediately I called out Joshua, and I hear his truck start, and then he takes off. And not only did he take off, but he spun his wheels when he's taking off. I'm like, what the fuck? Where's he going? So I call out. I'm like, Joshua! No answer. Joshua! No answer. I start screaming, and I grab my fucking paddle. I start paddling my ass off because I got to get to the other side of this fucking, cove area that I'm at. I get to the area and I look around and he's nowhere to be found. Tim took off with my son. What can I do? I pick up my phone and I look at it. I have one little dot bar on my signal. I call 911. Told him, hey, a guy that I met online, we'd been camping here all week. He just left. He just took off with my son. There was no note anywhere. He didn't leave a note. Didn't say anything. Hey, Scott, I'm going over to blah, blah, blah. He just took my son and left. And they got, I think it was 3 different counties around to respond. And the county deputies all blocked off all of the exits for the National Forest. And then they sent in scouts going in every single trail road that they could get in. And these are 2-track roads. Some are pretty bad. And they went through and they just combed the entire area in a grid pattern until they found him. They found him. They found my son. They brought my son back to me. That's one of the only things that I say I can see where it would be good to have those resources available to help the people, is if somebody takes off their son. Now, he never apologized to me. He said, he just gave an excuse. He said, hey, we've been hanging out all week. We went to go get firewood, but you never let me know. You took my 12-year-old son without letting me know that you're even asking me if it's okay. And it's not okay. That was fucked up. I'm going to try to catch up on some of these. We have isn't working either. Oh, wow. I guess I missed a bunch. I did kind of tell a long story there. No duty to act. Oh, yeah. They don't need. Yeah. Imagine setting up your car to vaporize itself once it hits a 25-degree angle while it's not. Yeah, well, booby traps are illegal. Uh-huh. In some countries, the people beat the bad guys on the street when they are caught. Yeah, right. What we have isn't working either because you can't even defend yourself against certain people without going to jail. Exactly. Anarchy would sound better, but it just can't exist because evil men will band together to create a greater force to deprive others of their life, liberty, and property. And so you're going to be subject to in this world, you're subject to the guy with the biggest sword. That's what you're subject to, the guy with the biggest sword. Um, get rid of brandishing and reckless discharge. Give us all constitutional carry. Yes, exactly. That'd be awesome. Then the cops should stay at the station till called, like firefighters. Yep. No, that would work. That would work. Just stay there. Don't fucking try to generate revenue by stopping citizens that haven't committed any crimes. Maybe do patrols. Sure. Maybe do patrols for crimes, seeing somebody sneaking around the bush at somebody's house, whatever. And that's another thing. A lot of people think, oh, you can call the police and let them know when you're going to be gone, so they do a patrol on your house. Nowadays, these cops are fucking in on it with the crooks. They let the crooks know when you're not going to be home. And that's actually what was going on here when I arrested that guy that was doing the fucking thing. He had in with some of the lower level sheriff's deputies that were doing the patrols on, and somebody called the sheriff and say, hey, I'm going to be out of town for 2 weeks. Could you just send a patrol by once a day or once a couple of times a day just to kind of check on the house, make sure everything's okay? And they're like, yeah, we'll do that. Sure. And the patrol guy's like, hey, Mike, we got this house here that's, empty for 2 weeks. Yeah, I agree. Let the people keep each other in line. Yeah. Crime would drop. Smoking weed is not a crime. I agree. Crime would drop. Yeah. Yeah, we're not a free people, though. We're not. Smoking weed makes me lazy, which means I have less luxury. I have less fine food. It's not hurting anyone. Why is that a crime? It's only hurting me. But they also offer assisted euthanasia. I don't know. That's one reason I don't camp with strangers or eat their candy or eat their candy. This guy. No, he turned out to be an all right guy. It was just he took a liberty that he didn't even think about. He didn't think about it. But my thought was, what if it was somebody? He wasn't trying to kidnap my son. But my thought was, what if it was somebody that was? That would be a time where those resources would be very, very useful. There's two different types of weed that I know of: sativa and indica. And sativa they call it working weed. You can keep working. It doesn't make you lazy. It makes you think, and I think it helps you to focus on different things, especially like monotonous type of projects. You can focus whatever better, but in your mind, it gives you a different angle of looking at things. It's kind of interesting. But indica, that's pretty sedative. It'll put you in the couch. That's what it's called, indica couch. Indica couch. It puts you in the couch. It makes you fucking. I don't like that weed. I never did. I don't even smoke weed anymore anyway, but when I did, I would always look for sativa. I didn't want indica. But no, I mean, if it was legal, I'd probably smoke a few times a month, maybe sativa. Who knows? I might go back to every day. I used to smoke it every day, but never a lot. I would always put I make my cigarettes and I put like about a quarter to a half of a hit in the very tip of my cigarette. And then pack it in, twist it up. And then basically the first hit that I took was that hit. So I'd make sure I held that one in. And I just, if that didn't give me a buzz, then I'd quit smoking for a couple weeks. Because you lose your tolerance. You build a tolerance to it. And I used to smoke it every day like crazy. And it would take me 1 to 2 joints just to get a buzz. But I smoked every single day and I smoked a lot. That's going back to my teenage years and into my 20s. But yeah, I think it's when, yeah, probably, oh, probably about 2000 is when I quit smoking it a lot. When it comes to weed, I need the strongest. Weak weed is a downer. But next thing, I don't smoke weed anymore. I got stoned out of my mind on a rare occasion. Oh, I get stoned out of my mind. It, it's good medicine when used responsibly. Yeah, to get blown away all the time. I like to get stoned once in a while. I haven't smoked weed in well over a year. And when I did, it was just a little. But I did have a buddy of mine that hooked me up with pretty good shit one time where we smoked a bowl, and I smoke a half a hit at a time, and it gets me a buzz. So I smoke a whole bowl, and it's like, whoa, it feels good. It does. Hey, here's another thing too, though. I mean, you don't have to worry about it there, Stephen. Well, you don't even smoke anymore, but that's fine. But here in Indiana, it's a zero tolerance state. There's zero tolerance. Even though it's legal for me to cross over into the next town, which is Illinois, and smoke a bowl. That's completely legal. But in all the states, as far as I know now, when you sign your driver's license, you're giving what's called implied consent for them to do a chemical test on your blood if they have a reasonable, articulable suspicion of that you have been under the influence of either alcohol or something else. And so they can do a blood test, and if they find any THC in there, and it could be from a week ago that you legally smoked it, or 2 weeks ago that you legally smoked it, if they find any THC, and a chemical test can be a hair test too, so they can pull on the hairs and say, oh yeah, we got THC on there. I don't know how that happens, but they can, I guess. You got to trust them. And then you lose your license and get a mark for DWI, driving while under the influence or something. It's fucked up. So it's legal for me to go over there, smoke at a party, whatever. And then a week later, I'm going to lose my license over it. That's the way the fucking red team state works. And it is mostly the red states that vilify it. They're like, oh yeah, we're Americans, we're free. You got free guns. You got guns here in a red state. We're a red state. We got guns. But don't be smoking that devil lettuce. That devil lettuce, we're gonna go after you for that. It's like devil lettuce. That's one of the things I don't like about like Rosa. She constantly like makes it think like somehow these herbs that God made for the service of man are bad. She's whacked. She's got some major problems. She's constantly talking about how she does good. You want the blessings of God, you got to do good and not do bad. And I do good and I don't do bad. And I'm going to tell you how you could do good and not do bad. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Do you even not know what the gospel of Jesus Christ is? The law, Jesus Christ is the end of the law. And she's over there reading the law. I saw on one of her recent streams, reading the laws of the covenant that God made with the children of Israel in the land. Specifically, this passage she reads is those that are possessing the land, when they go in to possess the land that God has promised to Abraham. And she's like trying to think that's some kind of a metaphor for her being able to, that God's got some land for her ahead of time and prepared in the future. And she's got a lot of, but that's what a lot of people do. They turn a scripture into a metaphor. They don't seek the Lord for the Lord to teach them. They read into it what's not written, and they think in their head something, and then they go with that, and you can't correct them. You can't correct them with the clear words that they literally just read. Make sure all the future firearm purchases are private sales. Oh yeah, dude. I'm done purchasing at the any gun stores. That whole thing, talk about hoax and false flag and orchestrated events. I can't remember what was his name, Brady or something. The guy that was supposedly protecting Ronald Reagan um, from the assassination. The the guy that assassinated him was actually interconnected with the Bushes too. It's like, yeah, um, that whole thing was sketchy, but that event led to the criminal background check system to where they can just type your name into the computer and shut you off from being able to be a legal person, and you'll be what's considered a prohibited person. Yeah, that's fucked up. Yeah. I looked into that, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, and I was like, motherfuckers. I knew I didn't like that. Hmm. Yeah, what did I miss? Speaking of DUIs, how does the whole night to travel don't need a driver's license thing work? Oh, ductees. Um, the right to travel. So that's based off of the sovereign national movement. Not to be mistaken with the oxymoron sovereign citizen, because sovereigns believe that you're not a citizen, of the corporation of the United States of America. And sovereign nationals actually denounce their citizenship with the state, and they get a passport with the Department of the State, the U.S. Department of State, and then they basically, the movement is based upon laws that were written before automobiles and before roads were built for automobiles, to think that the government can't infringe on the right of a person to travel. And they can. They can. There's the case law has already been established. They can, and it makes sense, to have some kind of rules and regulatory standards for people to drive on the roads so that there is less accidents. And we don't need an annual registration. That's just a fucking annual tax to fuck us. Vehicles should have some kind of identifier on them and some kind of registration, like they're registered to that particular person for such cases as hit and runs, so that you can have accountability for something, where somebody has committed a crime and deprived somebody of their life, liberty, or property. Your freedom ends at the end of your fist, and my freedom begins at the beginning of my nose. And that's, as soon as that is violated, then there needs to be some kind of accountability. So I see that, I get that. I think it's, but they don't make it. There's not a sovereign national in the history of the sovereign national movement that has ever been able to maintain that status without being subject to what they believe are unconstitutional laws. And a lot of them go into the whole natural law thing, and there's no such thing as natural law. That was a philosophy that was created by the ancient Greeks and Romans. I looked into that too, and it's like, yeah, it sounds good, but it's not. It's not true. I tell people we don't have any God-given inalienable rights other than we have a right to choose. That's it. That's all we have a right to do is we have a right to make our own choices and our own decisions, but we have consequences to those choices and decisions. Yeah. You won't win that one, Duck. Yeah, right. You won't. George H.W. Bush had dinner with Hinckley family the night before. That's why Hinckley never went to jail. Interesting. Yeah, I think I remember reading about that. I thought it was Jed Bush had dinner with him. I knew he was related to, like, he connected with Jed too. The whole Bush family. It's like, yeah, fucking bullshit. Yeah, it was Hinckley, the guy, the shooter, the shooter. When you start looking into these things, like the Port Arthur event, that whole thing was a staged event, and they took all the guns from the people in Australia off of one event. They tried that shit here a couple of times, and people were like, no. Like, nope, you ain't getting it. Oh man, I had a dream the other night that somebody stole my gun. I mean, I've got more than one, but there's one I carry with me everywhere I go. And I do put it in my car when I'm working. I don't climb ladders and clean windows with my gun on my side because it's actually a waist carry. But yeah, it was kind of a sad dream. It's like, well, it's gone. I'm not calling the police. Yeah. I can't think of many things I would call the police for. If somebody attempted to break into my house or committed any kind of a forcible felony, I would call the police to come get the body. If I stumbled upon a body somewhere, I would call the police. If somebody stole my vehicle, I would call the police. There are times when it can be a good thing to call the police, but not many. Neighbors doing shit. Petty theft. I can't really think of many things that I would call a cop for. What would you call the police for? Think about it and be serious. Like, be for real. What would you call the police for that you could think of that would be either it would be beneficial or you would have to by law? Like if you stumbled upon a body or you took somebody out that was trying to break into your house, you have to call the police. If you don't, then you're committing a felony. Attempted to off his dad twice. Hadn't heard that one before. One thing I did hear that George W. Bush, actually, he confessed to it publicly in an interview. When he was in college, he was a member of, and still is, a member of the Skull and Bone Society, one of those secret societies. And he had stolen the bones of Geronimo, the Native American indigenous chief, Indian chief, or yeah, Native indigenous chief. One thing Geronimo was known for doing was being able to gather together an alliance of tribes that wouldn't normally work together to be able to bring them against a common enemy. Now, the Skull and Bones Society likes to use the skull and the bones of a person in history that was known for having a specific power. Probably there's something about I talked about earlier how the radon destroys the red blood cells, but there is living blood cells inside of the bones. And what they do is they make a sacrifice of blood, and it's usually somebody that is of importance to them in their life, whether it's a child, a parent, a brother, a sister, whoever. But it's that's one of the things that they're known for, and that's all done under surveillance, so that the FBI keeps record of all that, so that they can have that as blackmail. But they take the blood of the sacrifice and they pour it into the skull, and then they do a ritual with that skull. And then they drink the blood. And what they're doing is they're actually accessing the spirit that had possession of that person and getting that spirit, bringing that into them. So they're literally receiving a spirit through the ritual. And it was after that George Bush effectively got an alliance, what do they call it, a coalition force, to go in and invade Afghanistan and Iraq. Oh, no weapons of mass destruction here. I'm going to read back. Stephen, next, it's used in a murder. One lazy cop would arrest you and charge you. A lazy lawyer would lose the case, and a lazy judge would give you a death sentence. Yeah. I wouldn't even do that if I lived on 2 acres. Wouldn't even do what? Oh, shovel time. I gotcha. I see. I know what you're saying. Yeah, that's why I want to try to read the comments before I get too far away in my stories. You're going to get a felony either way, right? Well, depends. Now, if you're in a blue state, it's going to be a felony. In the red state, it won't be a felony. That's one of the good things. They do protect. They have what's the castle law here. I'd call cops to tell them my gun been stolen just to cover myself. If your gun was registered, yes. Yeah, you would still have fingerprints though too. But they need more than just a weapon to be able to pin a crime to you. That's one of the things, like I see these people that are doing magnet fishing off of bridges, and they're finding guns. And without fail, almost all of them will call the police when they find a gun. I'm like, are you fucking dumb? And they'll say it on YouTube. They'll be like, oh yeah, we want to help solve a crime. It's a virtue signal bullshit. Fuck your fucking virtue signal. As soon as you call the cops, they come out there. What they're going to do? They're going to take your name down. They're going to take down grab your ID and get your date of birth and all the information, and they're going to go back and they're going to be like, hey, let's see if this guy's got any warrants. Blah blah blah. There was one guy who had it was a false warrant for his name. Here in Indiana, they extradited him to California because he called the cops because he found a gun. It wasn't even there. And I was in the comments telling him, I'm like, dude, there's no way that they can ever solve a crime by finding a gun. First and foremost, in the water, because all the fingerprints are gone from that gun in a matter of 20 hours or so. Like, I don't even think they'd be able to recover it. And if it's a running creek, I don't think they recover any fingerprints off that gun after an hour underwater. Maybe even sooner than that. But secondly, without fingerprints, you can't tie that gun to any person. There's nowhere to tie it to. So that's just dumb. That's just dumb. Call the police. You find a gun, and if it's salvageable, take it apart, clean it up, replace any parts you got to replace. You got yourself a free gun. You know, fucking, if the numbers are scratched off it, then you might have a problem with it. So you might want to keep that as one of those spare throwaway guns. But if I find a gun with numbers scratched off it, I'm not calling the cops. Fuck that. What do you think they're going to do with it? They're going to fucking use that. Chances are they're going to use that to plant on somebody to trump charges. I don't trust cops. I trust them as far as I could throw the fucking San Francisco Bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge. I'd call cops to tell them my gun been stolen. Oh yeah, I read that one. Okay. He tried poisoning him. Then he tried sabotaging his jet. Interesting. And he was in Texas the morning JFK got popped. Yep, the castle doctrine is what we got here. The castle law. The guy I arrested in the back of my house there, he was trying to rob my neighbor's pole barn when he had just built it. He had all of his tools in that pole barn to build his house. He bought the property. It was like 8 acres to build a house on. And he had all of his tools in the house. And midnight came along, and just after midnight, my wife spotted somebody walking around with a flag, pulling into his driveway. And I look out back in my back window just in time to see the lights dim off. And I said, yeah, well, Jeff can come here anytime he wants. It's, because it was kind of an odd time. He doesn't usually come at midnight. And I was brushed my teeth. I went and spit and rinsed and came back out and looked, and I saw someone walking around with a flashlight around the backside of the barn. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that's Jeff, because that wouldn't make sense. He doesn't keep anything over there. And I knew the guy pretty good, so I decided I was going to go out there with a cell phone in one hand and a gun in the other. Just my .357 Smith & Wesson. And I hold off to my side, and I walk up this really quiet trail. It had just rained recently, and all the trail was raked clean, and we got sandy soil, so it's super quiet for me to sneak up on him. And I come up just in time to see this guy in the light, because he did have an outdoor light over the pole barn. And he was backed up, getting ready to kick in the door. And then I stepped into the light, and I held the gun off to the side, and I said, can I help you? And he looks at me, sees the gun in my hand, puts his hands up, and he says, I'm just looking for my dog. So your dog's not going to be behind that locked door. And he says, yeah, me and my old lady got in a fight, and she just dropped me off here. It's like his fucking van, the van he pulled up in is parked right in front of me. He's telling me his old lady and him got in a fight and she dropped him off. It's like, well, something ain't right. And then he gave me another excuse. He says, I was hunting and my dog ran off. And I'm like, yeah, something's not adding up here. So I'm going to call the landowner here, and I decided, no, I'm going to call 911. So I did. I called the police. And I called the police and I said, yeah, I'm over. I got a guy that I think is trying to break into my neighbor's pole barn. And as soon as I said that, that guy came running directly at me. I put up my gun. First and only time I ever pointed my firearm at somebody. I put my front sights right on his chest and I screamed as loud as I could, stop! Because I knew if he kept coming, I'm going to pop him through. I knew it. I didn't want to kill him. But he's coming at a guy with a gun in his hand and he's running after me, and I'm not aggressive at all to him. I'm just asking questions. He's going to try to get my gun, and he's going to try to kill me. I didn't even think twice. I got a wife and kids at home. I'm gonna put a hole right through his chest. And he stopped. Thankfully, he stopped. I learned two lessons in that moment. The first lesson was that I knew that I could squeeze the trigger. I could have done a follow up and just finished him off right there. But the second lesson was that the very last thing that I would want to do is take another man's life that's going to go and meet the Lord, not knowing him, because that's an eternal thing. And that's what I saw. And it's amazing in those instances how everything seems to go slow except your mind. Your mind races. And some people don't get like this. Some people get all weird and fucking wires crossed in intense traumatic situations and they freeze. I won't freeze. That's something God has blessed me with, I guess. I have the ability to act and everything seems to go slow super slow. Like everything's in super slow motion except my mind. And my reactions seem to be in real time. But everything around me seems to go slow. I got a suspicion about that. And I think that those performance enhancing drugs that a lot of athletes take are tapping into that ability to be able to slow things down or basically speed up your mind during those times is probably what's going on. Just a thought. I cannot think of one circumstance other than for a missing loved one. That's it. Interesting. Hands in the air. The guy says, George W. Bush is my cousin. Yeah, right. No, he didn't say that. Hey, Tens. Oh, Terry's just doing her thing. What's going on? Yeah, I was in your live stream earlier because I was subscribed and I forgot what happened. It was something about censorship. I am against censorship. I don't want nothing to do with people that are censoring shit. I was like kind of bummed out. Yeah, you did. And I was being, I forgot who it was. There was something going on. I came in and somebody was censoring somebody else, and I was like, peace, I'm out. Fuck that. It was all over some kind of misunderstanding or bullshit. I tell my mods, don't ever censor anybody for the content of their speech, ever. Like, just let them go. If you're feeling triggered, then you time yourself out. And I only censor spam. If spam comes in, it just interrupts people talking, And so, but yeah, I've been censored too much, and people get butthurt over the easiest, stupidest things, and a lot of times it's because I'll say something that's patently true that goes against what they want to believe or what they've emotionally invested their heart into believing, and I'm like, yeah, people say things to me all the time. I let them go. Somebody could be having a bad day. Somebody could come into my live stream and get angry because I've said something that they don't like, and they let them go. What if they're just having a bad moment? What if that person has a key of knowledge of something that they can help you understand down the road, but you just completely eliminated their ability to say it? And when you want to silence somebody's voice, you really have murder in your heart. And I don't want anybody to be, hey, God's the one that gave him a life. God gave him a voice, and let him do it. That's my view on it. I'm pretty strong on that. I can't be altered on that easily. I'm not saying I won't be, but not to do that. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. If they do not agree with this, I had said everyone knows right from wrong. Treat others as you would like to be treated, and people don't do that, and so you just let them go. Let's see. The cops will be like, you pop this guy and you're trespassing. Turn around, son. Actually, no. Yeah, I did have okay. Oh wow, my comment got deleted. Shadow ban. Man, I hate that, dude. See, that's why I don't like censorship. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that, duckies. Now that time you retracted it. Sent them to the after. Yeah, so and that was the thing though. So as soon as I pulled my gun up, I got that guy at gunpoint. I'm on the phone with 911. I got my guns pointed right at him, and all of a sudden I see movement in the van that he came in, the minivan. Somebody's taken over the driver's seat, and then they start the car and they just roll it down the hill real slow. So I got the phone in one hand, I'm holding this, and I'm watching very closely back and forth between this guy and that van. I'm looking for movement because if somebody rolls a window down, I got to be ready to fucking shoot, right? And so I'm waiting for the fucking, see what's going on. And they just drive out of sight. They were leaving their buddy behind. And so now I got this guy at gunpoint. And I told them, I said, you need to get an officer here now. And they said, and the lady said, okay, sir, what's your name? I said, you can call me Scott. And she says, Scott, what's your last name and what's your address? I said, you can call me Scott. And here's the location that I'm at. And she said, sir, I'm going to need your address. I said, I don't think you understand. I currently have an attempted burglar here, or attempted robber here, at gunpoint that already bum rushed me. I said, you can either dispatch the cops here where I've given you now, or you can dispatch the coroner later, but I'm not going to go beyond that with you right now. This lady got so butthurt because I wouldn't give her my last name and my address in front of a crook. It's like, are you kidding me? I live in the other side of the woods. He didn't know which house I came from or whatever, or where I came from. Why would I give him all that info? It's fucking ridiculous. And so finally the lady, I'm sitting there arguing with the lady for 3 minutes. Finally, she decides to dispatch. It took him a half a fucking hour to get the cops there. And when she did, there were 3 what do they call them? They're like volunteer cops, volunteer deputies, and then 2 on duties. And it took them about a half hour to get there. And when they came up, the first thing they did, and I would never do this again, the first thing they did was they told me, put the gun on the ground and back away. I would have put it in its holster and put my hands out if I would have known then what I know now. And that's what I would do. If a cop tells me to put my gun down, nope. I'm going to put it in my holster and I'm going to show you that I'm not a threat, but you're not going to disarm me. And I'm not going to willfully disarm myself because you're fucking pussy. Fuck that. Although there may be some laws you're breaking by doing that now, because they keep making these laws fucking more and more tyrannical against the liberties of the people. Pisses me off. And turns out the guy, at one point while I was waiting for the cops, this guy literally did a 180, kicked rocks as he starts walking away. He says, I'm fucking out of here. And he starts walking away. And it was so quiet, he could hear the hammer cock on my 357. I was going to shoot right next to him onto the ground. I wasn't going to shoot him. I wouldn't shoot a man running away or walking away. But I was going to put a shot right next to him on the ground. I cocked the hammer back and he stopped instantly. And he goes, you're going to shoot me in my back? And I said, Mitch Daniels, who was the governor of Indiana, said, Mitch Daniels, the governor, just signed into law the Castle Doctrine. All I have to do is suspect that you're involved in a felony and I could end your life. And I said, I kind of think you're involved in a felony. And then he got scared because I was like, he heard the hammer cock and he thinks I'm going to shoot him and he thinks I want to shoot him. And that's one of the things he said is, people like you just want to shoot somebody, like have an excuse to shoot somebody. Anyway, the cops came, they took my gun, didn't see it till the next day. And I had to call to get them to deliver it back to me. They fucking took my gun. But come to find out, that guy that I arrested, the ringleader of this crime ring, had just gotten out of prison like 8 or 10 months earlier after serving 15 years for shooting and killing his cohort in the back. They were fighting over merchandise. 15 years earlier, he was doing the same thing. He was robbing people's buildings. And he was in a fight over some merchandise in a cornfield out here in Indiana. And he shot his friend in the back and killed him. And so he served 15 years for that. And so this guy, when he was walking away and he heard that hammer cock, he thought, holy shit, I'm getting what I gave. It's coming back to me. And I'm sure, when you're in jail for 15 years and then you get out, I mean, there's got to be some kind of a sense of, condemnation upon you. Like, you deserve to be dead because you took somebody else's life. And so I think all of those played into a factor of him not wanting to move after that. He didn't want to move. He literally didn't want to move. He was like stunned. But then what I did do, I don't normally make my prayers before men, or I don't. But as soon as the cops got here and I laid my gun down, I started to pray. And I prayed out loud. And I thank God that that I didn't kill him. I said, I thank God that I didn't have to shoot him. I thank you, Lord. And I prayed for this man's soul that he would find mercy. Hey, hopefully one day he'll find mercy and I'll be able to see him, on the good side of things. But he was commonly known. I know I'm missing a bunch. I'm going to read through here. Oh, Terry's just doing her thing. If you heard me, I told them not to do that. Oh, okay, yeah. Send them to Afterlife. Wow, you can't type that as a sentence in 2025. Crazy. Oh, really? Send them to the Afterlife. That's one of the things I learned, Duck D's, is a lot of times, so, and maybe you already figured this out, but if you type something in and you swipe upward to another stream and then swipe back, if YouTube censored that comment, it'll be gone. And also, well, I should say, even content creators, they can hide you. I think it's hiding. I'm not really sure what all the censorship options are, but some content creators can literally hide you so that it looks like you're ghost censored. It looks like your comment's there, but as soon as you leave and come back, boom, you see your comment's not there. Yeah, I hate censorship. I absolutely hate it, dude. I 100%. To the Afterlife. Okay, I see. Oh, you can't type that one. Yep. Interesting. Duck. YouTube is using AI to find people talking negative about Chucky, and the system is overloading with censorship. Yeah, it is. Freedom of speech really is gone. Yeah, it's never really the privilege of free speech isn't on the private platforms. It's in the public forums. The traditional public forums. That's where you have the right to speak freely. Sorry, privilege. And there's limited public forums, which are, limited to the time, space, and manner restrictions, which is important. If you're going to a public meeting, everything's going to be they're taking minutes on the meeting, and it's only reasonable that they restrict your speech within their rules of, what do they call them? Decorum, I think. So that the person that's doing the recording of the words doesn't have to deal with one or more than one person talking at a time. That's what they do in the courtrooms. They don't allow multiple people talking at one time. Worse than city life. So wait, you was a cop? No, I was not a cop. I wanted to be a cop at one time when I was back to blue till it happens to you kind of a person. I backed blue and I thought it was a noble thing to get into. Um, Even though I hadn't been violated multiple times, I wanted to have a job that was what I thought was noble and good at the time, and thankfully, um, I just turned 36 when I thought about it, and the cutoff age was 35. But yeah, I was thinking about becoming a cop. Yeah, he probably did hear that hammer sound quite a few times before. He knew what it was. But my 357 it's a big gun. It's a 6-inch barrel, stainless steel. Yeah, he was looking right at the fucking barrel, pointed right at him. I mean, it just to look at it is intimidating, let alone, and it's got a flash suppressor. Stainless steel, nice gun, real nice gun. Probably, yeah, I got to say between that and my SR9, I love them both. They're both very comfortable in the hand, and that's one of the most important things about choosing a gun. I tell people when they want to get into guns, um, before you buy a gun, put guns in your hand, a bunch of different guns in your hand, and feel them and see how they feel, because the feeling that that gun has in your hand is going to be 80 to 90% of your ability to shoot that thing well. If it feels good in your hand, then like an extension of you, just like your hand in a glove that fits you perfectly. It's one of those things. Your foot in a shoe, it's an extension of you, that you literally an extension of your arm, and it's got to feel right. It does. Have a good night, Terry. Thanks for joining in. um I'm getting all kinds of messages. Yeah, I should probably get off of here. It's been a while. I'm gonna have to respond back to some people. I don't even know where I'm at in the charging thing. Yeah, it's getting late. Guns feel powerful, like you can change the world. They do have the ability to do that to a person. Yep. Feel going to watch me now for saying that. Oh, the Fed's gonna. Yeah, I don't know. I think that. Well, I know that every one of us has a profile, a digital profile of everything we say, everything we do, everything's being recorded. And they have AI that sections people off into different groups, sections you off into different groups. I was telling somebody the other day, who was I telling I said, it was a friend of mine who's got the YouTube channel Following After Jesus Christ. Sean is his name. He's a pretty cool dude. Um, he's also one that was served in the military in Afghanistan. And wait, no, did he? He might have done. It might have been Iraq. I think it was Iraq. But he served, I think, 2 tours, and then he woke up to realize what they were doing, and he found mercy through Jesus Christ. And he's the name of his channel is Falling After Jesus Christ. But he was telling me about something that he was put up about a Kennedy speech, which most people, and I did too, I took it out of its context because I could never find the whole speech. I looked for the speech and I couldn't find it. It seems like big tech only wants people to have uh, the out of context narrative of JFK's speech and not his whole narrative, because it is actually the exact opposite of what people believe that he was saying. Kind of interesting how that works. But I told him, I said, you're on the list. He said he at this point right now he would be offended if he wasn't on the list. Because he says, as much stuff as I've shared with people about the truth of things, he said, I'd be offended if I wasn't on the list. I'm like, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, but anyway, I'm going to cut it out here. Man, it's been 3 hours. It's been over 3 hours I've been on live. So, hey, thanks for joining me, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.